Welcome aboard the Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon podcast, where we're dedicated to helping first-time and experienced boaters find the right boat at the best price and ensure all boaters have years and years of happy boating fun because life truly is better on a boat. Today's podcast is sponsored by the First Time Boat Buyers Academy, so you can find the perfect boat at the lowest possible price and buy with 100% confidence. For a short video, visit boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/academy. Now, let's hop aboard and have some fun. Welcome to the Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon podcast. I am your host, Captain Matt, and today we're talking to Ronald. Ronald is a boater from up in New York City, or a soon-to-be boater from up in New York City, and he reached out to me saying, hey, I've got some questions. Here are some things I want to do. And also there's a story that I want to share. So Ronald, I appreciate you joining us here today.
And thank you very much for having me.
So you came across me and you're involved in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy. Is that right?
Yes, I am. And I came across you on YouTube, just flipping through different YouTube channels.
Perfect. Very good. Well, you tell me where you want to start. Do you want to start with your questions? Do you want to start with your story? How would you like to kick this off?
I'll kick it off real quick with the story because it's actually pretty funny. So I'm in law enforcement here with the NYPD, and I'm a naturally very suspicious person. So my wife and I have been boat shopping and saving up for about 4 years now. And we finally decided that in this post-COVID year that we would pull the trigger. So one of the things, and not having listened to your podcast, but having a couple of friends in the boating community, one of the first things that I did was there's 4 marinas within about 30 minutes drive of my house. I figured, let me go to these marinas and see what slips cost, because it is New York and everything from milk to boat slips is probably outrageously expensive.
For sure.
So I figured I'd start comparing prices. So the first marina I walked into was on the higher end, and I knew that going in. So I walk into this marina and I start talking about, I was about to go down to New Jersey to see a boat, a 36-foot Sea Ray. And it was an older Sea Ray. It was about $80,000. Wasn't exactly what we wanted to get into, but for a few reasons, which I'm sure we'll get into. But we were going to go, my wife and I were going to go see this Sea Ray. So anyway, so I'm talking to the young lady at this marina, and it turns out, unbeknownst to me, that they also do sales. So the salesman hears that I am a first-time boater. I don't currently own a boat, that I'm currently in the market. His ears perk up. He's an older gentleman in his 70s, very, very polite, very, very nice gentleman, comes out instantly, he's stupid on me and decides he's going to start talking to me about boat sales. Now, I hate the haggling of used car buying and real estate. I can't stand it. So we get into this whole conversation, and he asked me what price range I'm in. And like a dummy, I tell him. Okay. And next thing I know, I'm standing on the swim platform of a 2010 Cruisers 420 sports yacht.
Yep.
And the thing was beautiful, like extraordinary. Now, of course, I've been doing my research for a while, so I know what IPS is. I know what Zeus drives are. So this thing has got Volvo Penta, IPS. Turns out that they're gas engines, which I wasn't thrilled about. I prefer diesels. But anyway, it has gas engines. And we're in the cockpit of this thing, and it's extraordinary. One owner, it was an older couple whose kids had moved away. They decided that they wanted to move up in boats, according to the salesman. And here's this thing with IPS. It's a 42-foot boat swim platform. It's 45 feet length overall, and it's beamy as hell. I think it was like 14.5 in the beam.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, it's a huge boat, huge. But it's a cruisers. And if you know boats, if you follow boats, cruisers, I mean, really, it's the Cadillac of boats, or American boats. And I'm 6'2", my son is 6'1". Our daughter is 15 years old and she's 5'10". My wife is no slouch. She's 5'8", and, a larger boat like that is what we've been looking for, especially because of what we want to do. And we've been looking at cruisers and express cruisers. So now I'm walking around this boat. We go down and we look at the galley, and the headroom is extraordinary. It's almost 7 feet of headroom in the galley in the salon area. And then, unlike most cruisers, 420 cruisers, this one actually has a bulkhead for the V berth, which is also the master. So there's a lot of privacy. I'm a married man, so the privacy it's great.
Yeah, for
and it's
sure.
got a great it's got a great galley. It's got a great refrigerator, and the head, even though it was in an ensuite, the master head was amazing with all this 72 inches of overall headroom. Actually, it was more. It was well over 6.5 feet of headroom in the shower. And then there was an aft cabin that, although the headroom wasn't extraordinary, it was just about 37 inches. It was a twin berth that you could have put the filler cushion in. Like, this thing checked all the boxes. I can go on and on and on about this boat, right? So finally he tells me the price. Okay, he tells me it's $150,000. And I'm like, my wife is going to assassinate me. Okay. just the fact that I even got on this damn boat, she's going to kill me, So I'm looking at, and I'm with a friend of mine who's like, I should have never taken this guy with me, because this idiot's talking me, and so it's just two idiots. And I'm sitting there violating one of the 7 rules that you talk about, which is I find no fault with this boat. I'm like enamored. I'm the teak and holly floor and this, that, and the sole is beautiful, and then the teak sole outside. It checks all the boxes. I don't even make a big deal about the 750 hours on the gas engines. Okay. So then the salesman tells me that the only issue with the boat is that the manifolds and the risers on the port engine have to be replaced. So I go, okay. Now, I don't really understand that, and I don't understand the mechanics of these things, which is a mistake that, as a first-time boat buyer, I made.
Yeah, you just don't know. You haven't been exposed to that world yet.
Right, exactly. I know what I want. I just don't know what the hell a manifold and a riser is. Okay? And I also didn't understand the differences in the longevity of a gas engine versus a diesel engine. In your video, you talk about, in the first-time boat buyer video, you talk about a gas engine lasting, well-maintained, which is a key phrase in this story.
Yes.
A well-maintained gas engine is about 1,000 to 1,500 hours. Okay? Where a well-maintained diesel, you're talking about 10 times as much.
Yep.
So walking down, so now, we get off the boat. I decide, hey, listen, can I see the docks? Can I see what the berths here and what it's like and everything like that? So walk down, the salesman walks my buddy and I down one of the docks. We run into their head of maintenance, who happens to be a retired New York City firefighter. Okay. Now he hears that I'm an active NYPD lieutenant, and he's like, hey, it's like, we kind of have that brotherhood here. Thank God.
Right. That connection instantly.
Yeah. So he makes the comment about how they just redid, not replaced, they just redid the starboard engine and replaced the manifold and the riser. So I'm like, the previous owner. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's why this boat's $150,000 and not more, because this is a 42-foot cruiser's yacht. It's with IPS. It's an amazing boat.
Right.
It's got all this stuff. I mean, the galley it didn't have Corian, it had granite countertops. And I'm like, okay, maybe a little suspicious, but not very. So I get home. I tell my wife, instantly, I'm almost on my deathbed as I'm telling her this because I know she's going to kill me.
And
I'm
that's
like,
how far, Ronald, how far over your budget that you told the sales guy are you? So the boat was 150. What did you tell him was your number?
Honestly, 150.
Oh, you did? Okay. Okay. So it's in the ballpark.
So he's right. It's in the ballpark. So here's the deal. My wife and I had actually been discussing this and saving. So 5 years ago, we went to the New York City Boat Show at the Jacob Javits Convention Center. My wife was hemming and hawing the whole way. She's like, there's no reason we're not buying a boat, this, that, and the other thing. 2 hours into the Jacob Javits show, my wife sees the NC-11 from Jeanneau. Okay.
Yep.
I'm basically dragging her out of there, kicking and screaming, because she almost signed a $350,000 purchase agreement. Okay. So, the two of us can be talked into doing dumb things like this. So, but it's a funny story that we tell. But now here we are, all this time later, 4.5 years later, we've been saving. And we've been very, very smart about this, and we've been educating ourselves, but we've not educated ourselves on the mechanics, on certain things. We've educated ourselves on safety, on boating rules, on what we really want and what we don't want, what we think suits us and what we don't think suits us, the type of boating, that 80% that you talk about, what we're going to be doing, what we plan on doing with this boat. So now the 150 is in our ballpark. It's, we do have, so basically the plan is put $100,000 down, okay, on a boat. And then we have a $30,000 oopsie kind of savings account, okay, that we will continue putting into. And that $30,000 is going to go towards the first year of the slip.
Yep.
The first year of winterization and storage. And in New York, and I'm sure some of your listeners are going to hear this and they're going to collapse. In New York, the average is $130 a foot. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's in New York City. Outside of New York City, if you go to Long Island, it's a little bit less. Maybe in Jersey, it's a little bit less. But give or take, you're looking at about $130 a foot. So, and that's for the season for the slip. And then you're talking about anywhere from $45 to $75 for the winterization and storage. Okay. So that $30,000 is for that, for fuel for the season, for just, an unforeseen issue, so we wanted to have that $30,000 because we didn't want to have, let's say we put $130,000 down. Now all of a sudden, the manifold goes bad.
Yep.
Now we have an issue. Now the boat's going to be, sitting in maintenance for 3 weeks because I don't have the money. So we didn't want that. So that's what the $30,000. So we have $130,000. So the $150,000 wasn't completely out of the budget. It was in the ballpark, but we were holding $30,000 in reserve.
Okay. Smart. Because something's going to come up. You don't know what it is, but something will.
Right. And in a boat like that has a 400-gallon tank for fuel, and then a $3.13 a gallon in New York for marine gas, you're gonna drop $1,000 on a tank of fuel.
For sure.
So it wasn't outside the realm of possibility. So now my wife goes down, she sees the boat, she's like, holy crap, this checks every single box. She's the same thing, So then our daughter gets home from school, we drag our daughter to go see this thing. Okay. She's like, this thing's amazing, blah, 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 So now the three of us were like, that's it. So the salesman was going to the boat show up in, I wanted to say it was Newport, Rhode Island. Yes. So he goes up to the boat show in Rhode Island. My wife and I discussed it over the weekend. She says, you know what? Let's do some research and let's see. how this price fares for that type of boat. I go crazy on Yacht World, Boat Trader, internet searches. I can't find this vintage boat for anything less than $230,000.
Right.
So now I'm sitting there going, why is this guy taking an $80,000 hit?
That red flag pops up. Yep.
Yes. Now, I become very, very suspicious of this whole thing. It's you can make $80,000 more on this boat. What is the problem? So now it dawns on me to start researching what it means to have to replace a manifold on a gas engine or on any marine engine. So I start educating myself and realize that the way that these engines are cooled is that they bring in seawater. Okay. And this particular Volvo is the Volvo Penta 550G, which is apparently a very, very, very good engine.
Yep.
But if the manifolds aren't cared for, what happens is they will crack. And what happens with these manifolds is that they're double walled. So you have a space inside this double wall where the seawater, the cooler seawater, is brought in, and it cools the hot exhaust gases, which helps cool the engine. And if there is a crack in that manifold inside that double wall, either seawater is going to go out, spill out into the engine compartment, or if the crack is on the inside of that wall, it's going to get sucked into the engine.
Yep.
And it will cause, left unchecked, catastrophic damage. Okay. Well, you're talking about not even an engine rebuild, an engine replace.
Right.
Okay. So I'm sitting there going, well, that explains why the previous owner had to rebuild that starboard engine. And then when I had gone back the third time to see the boat with my daughter and my wife, I noticed rust on some clamps on the top of the port engine. Those, unbeknownst to me, were part of the risers.
Yep.
And apparently the previous owner may have been negligent in changing the manifold on that port engine, and that rust, according to what I learned online, is indicative of that kind of damage.
Yep.
So now here I am looking at this, my dream boat, really my dream boat, in my price range, okay, and it's $150,000, and I'm like, wait a second, it's $150,000 for a reason. This thing is going to probably need a new engine at some point, if not two new engines. So I try calling. Now it's Sunday, and the salesman had told me he was available to me the entire weekend because he was going to be in Newport at this boat show. Call me at any time. Don't worry. That's how I am with my clients. No problem. I'm calling you on a Sunday then. I called him on a Sunday, no answer. I called him again on that Sunday, no answer. I call him on a Monday. And he picks up the phone and says, hey, I'm with a client right now. I can't talk right now. I'll call you back. Okay, no problem. Doesn't call me back. Now, I'm a cop. I'm used to getting blown off by people that I'm trying to interview. This is what he's doing. He's blowing me off. He's blowing me off. So now he calls me on Wednesday, and I'm in my car. He calls me on Wednesday and says, can you come down to the showroom? I need to talk to you. And I go, no, I can't. I'm on my way. I'm working. I'm on my way to a meeting with my boss. And he goes, well, we need to talk. I go, what happened? The boat fell out of the sling? And he goes, no, nothing like that. He goes, I can't in good conscience sell you this boat. And I go, yeah, that's why you were ducking my calls all weekend. And he goes, no, I wasn't ducking your call. I go, okay, no problem. I said, why can't you in good conscience sell me this boat? I said, what kept you up all weekend? He starts telling me how they cannot find the riser and manifold for that engine. Volvo has been promising them the parts for 4 weeks now. Now, this is a boat that they took on trade, and it turns out somebody else in that marina told me that the previous owner must be, God bless them, very well off. They bought a Nevada 53, Nevada 53, which is about a $1.4, $1.5 million boat. So now the salesman is telling me that, that's why they were able to get the boat to me such an expensive price, because they were able to sell the previous owner a very high-end boat, but he can't in good conscience sell me this boat because they can't find the parts for it. And his fear is that 4 years down the line, when I need to replace the manifold and the riser, I won't be able to find that part. Because Volvo is no longer making the part because the engine is tanking. And he's going on and on and on, telling me all the reasons why they can't get this part. And I just said to him, I was like, well, let me ask you something. Why was the starboard engine rebuilt according to Mike, the retired firefighter that we met on the dock? No answer. I don't remember him saying that. Well, he did. So now this all goes on and on. We're talking for about 15 minutes, and I'm infuriated. And I tell him, I was like, you knew going into this entire conversation that this boat had mechanical issues.
Yep.
Yet you showed my entire family. My son is away at college, so he didn't get the chance to see this boat. But we talked to him about it. And we showed him pictures and a video of it. I said, you showed us all this boat. You showed all of us this boat. And I said, granted, my own childish stupidity, and I'm not a child. I'm a 53-year-old man. So, but you showed us this boat, and we allowed ourselves, like idiots, to get excited about this potential, barn find, so to speak.
Right.
Because of the price and everything. And I said, it never once occurred to you to tell us that, it might not go through? And complete silence. Now, I could have just went on and on and on, and just, there was no point in just like even arguing with him at this point, and he's promised me, and this is the funny thing, he's promised me, I've since seen him, my daughter and I went to the in-water boat show at in Connecticut. I can't remember the marina, but up in Connecticut, and he in Norfolk, Connecticut, and we saw him there. His company is actually, it's got a lot of dealerships on the East Coast. So he saw us there, and again he apologized, just up and down apologizing to us and everything. And then he said, first thing Monday morning when I get back, I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone, and I'm going to find something for you that's going to be just as good. I said, okay, no problem. It's been 3 weeks. I haven't heard from him.
Yep.
Okay. I haven't gotten an email from him. And like I told my wife, there is nothing, you are not going to find anything in that price range unless it has 2 bricks as engines. Like that. You're not. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Because to this day, I've looked, and there is nothing in that price range anywhere near, like New York. So
right, yeah.
For your listeners, the tips that you give, I was telling my wife last night, I said, because we already found something else that we're interested in. It's down in Maryland, same size, but a little bit more expensive. And right away, I told my wife, if we go down there to see this boat, we need to start nitpicking. It's the upholstery is the wrong color. We need to make the salesman as uncomfortable, as unsure as possible that this is not a done deal. And that's one of the things that you talk about. And it's just, if you feel like, one of the things that I'm going to, for your listeners, if you feel at all uncomfortable, there is something, that gut feeling that we have that's evolved from us, from primate species, there is something, if it sounds too good to be true, it freaking is.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Don't
that's my
don't
story,
ignore those red flags. I talk a lot in that First Time Boat Buyer Academy about, hey, you want to find everything that's wrong with the boat that you can, not so that you walk away from a great boat, but so you know going into it, and you don't fall in love and get just so excited about this opportunity that you sort of overlook some signs that are gonna they're gonna be very, very expensive down the line.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, that I
So that's my
appreciate you.
story.
I appreciate you sharing that story. And so you got, did you have a deposit on the boat? Did you get that
No,
far?
no, we never got as far as a deposit. We never got as far as signing anything. And it was funny because I actually was calling him so that I could make the deposit,
Right.
because I had gotten to the point where somebody else is going to snatch this up. There's no way. And during COVID, people did two things. They bought RVs and boats. Which is why
Absolutely.
you can't buy an RV or a boat right now. So I'm like, somebody's going to snatch this thing up. Somebody's going to steal this deal from under me. So I was like, we got to get down there. And thank God this guy was ignoring me, and part of the reason I think he was ignoring me was he kept talking about how, because you get into a conversation about, what kind of boating are you going to do? What do you do for a living? And then I tell him, and I was like, oh, thank you for your service, this, that, and the other thing. And we want to do business. This dealership wants to do business with military and law enforcement, our first responders. And ironically enough, not to pull on anybody's heartstrings, but this is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So he brought that up also, and he's like, and I'm like, well, maybe that's why I'm getting such a good deal on this, that I am a first responder, that, that people are more cognizant about the value of first responders and the military in our society today.
Right.
Even though it doesn't seem like that when you watch the news, but, but you're from, I think, North or South Carolina, you saying in your videos. I'm sure outside of New York, people do like us, but, but he says, that's why I was convincing myself of this. And it was like, wait a second, why is this guy taking an $80,000 hit? And it's because, there are a lot of issues with this boat. And I'm glad that I didn't put any money down. I never signed the contract. I never signed anything. All I did was get my hopes up high.
Yeah, well,
So,
that can happen a lot, especially I find when it's the first boat that you see. There's something about that first one that you see that checks all the boxes, that it's real easy to overlook some, obvious, in your case, not so obvious things. Had he not mentioned anything about the manifolds and risers, you wouldn't have gone down that path of, what does that mean exactly? What, how expensive is that repair? Are there other things that can be that can cause damage if those aren't maintained properly? And you were lucky to have my academy to do the research online and find out, yeah, if water gets inside that engine, I got to replace the whole engine.
yeah.
So that's yeah, you've got to be aware, and don't get too excited. Don't get too excited when you find one that checks all the boxes. Be diligent in your inspection. Ask the right questions, which you can find on the YouTube channel. A lot of them. We go into more detail in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy, and then this conversation that you and I are having now. The podcast. Your experience can hopefully help hundreds of people that are out there in a similar situation to what you are. So I appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah, no. Listen, I'm anonymous, so nobody knows how much of an idiot I am.
There you go. You're just Ronald. Nobody knows. Ronald from New York could be one of thousands. Any other advice? I mean, you're in the middle of this right now, and I want to get to your questions. But it sounds like you're on the right track with the style of boat for sure, from what you said in the little online form. Any other advice or any other things that you've run into that you're like, hey, this shocked me, this caught me off guard, or this was really new and different to me?
Well, I think the thing that's caught me the most off guard, apart from my experience with this one salesman, is the ancillary costs. Okay. So one of the things you had mentioned, I already researched it. In New York, there is no property tax, but I thought that was amazing that there would be property tax on a boat.
Yep.
You know, so I actually wound up speaking to a salesman from the New York area who's actually a retired New York City police lieutenant, and he and I was talking, and one of the things that I met him at the Norfolk Boat Show, and one of the things that he started talking to me about, and this is before I listened to the First Time Boat Buyers Academy, is what's going to be the out the door price. All right. So what's the price of this boat with tax? What's the price of this boat including the registration? Because the boat has to be registered. You know, there's tax on this boat. There's sales tax. New York State is 8.25% sales tax.
Yeah.
You know, if I buy the boat in Connecticut, am I now going to pay sales tax in Connecticut and some type of a transfer fee in New York? You know, so because I'm now taking the boat from Connecticut where I purchased it from and bringing it to New York. Because in New York, if you buy a car, excuse me, in New Jersey, there is a fee to have it registered on top of the registration fee in New York because you bought the car out of state.
So oh, really? That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. So that's something else that I have to research in buying a boat. So the boat that we're looking at right now is in Maryland. So now, how am I going to get this thing from Maryland? Do I have to pay a professional captain, or am I going to trailer it up here? It's a 42-foot boat, you know, and is there going to be an additional fee because I've purchased it out of state? Because listen, everybody wants their pound of flesh from, you know, the tax-paying citizen.
Absolutely.
And New York, New York, South Carolina, whatever it is, no state is any different. So they're going to want their pound of flesh. So that's something that, you know, I have to look at and see. But the ancillary cost really is astonishing to me. What a slip costs in New York, you know, and again, salaries in New York tend to be a little bit higher, so it's relative. But what a slip costs in New York, power washing your boat when you're taking it out of the water is, you know, $35 a foot. Wrapping it is $55 a foot. It's insane. And those are the things that I think that I'm glad that my wife and I decided that we're going to have this $30,000, which sounds like a lot of money, and it is. I'm not trying to be dismissive. It is a lot of money, okay? But when you're talking about the New York area, the tri-state New York area, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and the type of boating that we want to do, that is the cushion you have to have. You can't just go out there, buy a boat, new or brand new or used, and be like, okay, cool, now I got this boat, I'm going to go out and play, and then, holy crap, I got to drop $500 for fuel. It's $5,000 to put this thing in a slip, you know. So that's been one of the most shocking. Oh, I'm sorry, you still there?
Yeah, I got you. You cut out just for a second, but you're back.
Yeah, no, it's my car. So, yeah.
But yeah, you're 100% right. Knowing in every, you know, yours is higher than it is in most places, but now you know it. Now you know. All right, I've got, and is it $5,000 a month or is it $5,000 for the year in your slip?
For the season. It's for the season.
Okay, that's what I thought. But you know, there's, for a boat that size, it costs money just to have it hauled out. You know, it's fairly expensive just to have it hauled out, and then on top of that, to block it up and put it up for the winter, or to wash the bottom, or to do the bottom paint, which you need to do every couple of years. All of that stuff, it's really important. It you know, everybody's on some type of a budget, but I think it's really important to know that before you jump in, so you can have your $30,000 boating budget, or boating account, or your $5,000 boating account, or your $500 boating account, but know what it's going to be for your boat in your area, for the things that you want to do that are going to make you really enjoy the boating lifestyle. And I got an email from a guy the other day that said, hey, you know what? Because of your information, we decided not to buy a boat because it's gonna strap us too much. And I was like, I hate
Right.
that, but I'm glad you made that decision now instead of after you bought the boat and you're like, oh shit, we can't afford this, or it's going to put too much financial strain on us and now we can't enjoy it. I just think
Right.
it's key. So, well, Ronald, let's go into some of your questions, because I know you've got some questions. You've kind of told me that, hey, we're in the city. We really like the idea of cruising. You've got a teenage daughter. It sounds like maybe a low 20s, high teens son.
High teens.
Okay, so you're a taller guy. I'm 6'2", so I understand the headroom need and the ability to lay out and to get some sleep and have a full length. But you also want to do some cruising. You want to kind of go out on some adventures, I call them. Go out and run to Cape Cod, down to Cape May. So tell me what kind of questions do you have, and I'll see if I can provide any insights for you.
So for us, like I said in my email to you, like, we do want to do that. We live in New York. We want to go out to Fire Island and Long Island, maybe up to Cape Cod where my wife has family, or Cape May where we've vacationed in the past, and stay on board a boat for a week, 2 weeks. So a cruiser for us is ideal. What my question becomes is, there's a very big price difference between a older Sea Ray, let's say 360, that's a 36 feet, instead of having a door and a bulkhead for the cabin, for the V-berth, the master, it's got a curtain. And then a boat like this 42-foot cruiser or a 42-foot Regal that has quote unquote staterooms.
Yep.
So is that a matter of preference, or is that a matter of comfort? How do you see something like that stateroom livability, or separation?
It's a matter of your situation. So here's the question I would ask you. Your daughter's 14, 15, you said. Your son's high teens. 15.
He's 19.
What, in reality, try to look into the future over the next couple of years. How often is it going to be the four of you going out and spending, 3, 4, 5, 10 days, 14 days on the boat on a little mini vacation, versus just you and your wife? Because I see it coming down to a matter of privacy, of
right.
And I don't know. I think it's different for every person, but think about, in reality, not, oh man, it would be great when we can do this, but how often is your daughter and your son going to be on that boat with you on those runs down to Cape May, or seeing family up at Cape Cod?
I would say because of our daughter's age. I mean, she'll be 16 in a couple of days, but because of her age, and she has a little summer job, she would probably be more the one than our son. Because even though, like, when he comes home from college, he works. So he has a job waiting for him when he comes home and everything like that. And he's probably going to be doing an internship this summer when he comes home. But it'll probably be more our daughter. But even looking further into the future, my brother and his wife live very close to us. He actually has he has a vacation home where we go skiing and snowboarding, and I've talked to him about this whole boating thing, and he's like, expressed an interest to spend that time with us as well. especially because his kids are much older. I'm the youngest of three, so my brother's kids are, one of them is married, one of them is engaged, so they're empty nesters, my brother and his wife.
Yep.
So it would make sense to do something like that, because we would potentially have either my kids or my brother and his wife, or even no, I shouldn't say God forbid, but my mother-in-law. My wife's going to listen to this podcast, so I may never speak to you again. So.
Yeah, that's right. Tell her I apologize. I apologize, Mrs. Ronald. He didn't mean it. He didn't mean it.
Bleep that part. It's
yeah, exactly. I usually don't edit these, but I'll help you out there. So yeah, I like the idea for you, Ronald. I like the idea of having that stateroom up front for the privacy. And here's the thing: when you're overnighting for multiple nights on a cruiser, a 38-footer, which typically is just going to have a V berth and not an actual stateroom with the door that shuts, it gets awfully tight when you're spending multiple days. There's not much room. Your headroom will be okay. The Regals, the Sea Rays, the cruiser yachts, your headroom's going to be okay. But that privacy in the evening time when you're on a week stay and you're using that as I call it kind of your condo on the water, and that's where you're staying.
Right.
I think you would enjoy it. Now, what I would be cautious of is going too old, where now some of the equipment, and I'm thinking specifically of the plumbing system, the head compartment, the shower, is not the more modern type stuff. Getting back, you get into the early 2000s, late 90s, and now they're, some of that, the plumbing would need to be replaced. It can kind of degrade over time. And if you're going to be spending that kind of time, you're going to be using the facilities unless you have you end up at a spot with a full bathhouse kind of setup, or a real true yacht club or pool house. So that would be, I would try to balance that, stay within the budget, get that size, but try not to go too old. And when I say that, I'm thinking, early 2000s, definitely 90s, I think, is going to be too far back for what you're looking for.
Okay. So a 20, it's like 2005, 2010 on up.
Yeah. I would think, yeah. And I'm trying to think, 2003, 2005 seems like a pretty good 2005 and newer. I don't know enough about that specific size range to know what the prices are right now on those. But my gut tells me, if you're looking at a 40-foot Sea Ray that's that's a 07, my gut tells me you're probably close to the 150 range, but I don't know. I haven't researched it enough to know. You probably have a better feel than I do.
Yeah, no, they're depending on the equipment, and that speaks more to the radar, the screens, whether it has a backup camera, whether it has IPS, Zeus, gas, diesel. You're talking anywhere between 150 to actually about 325.
Okay, yeah. You also, when you hit that 40-foot range, that you're getting close to the cutoff between gas and diesel. It's and diesel. It's a more durable, longer lasting engine, like we talk about in the Boat Buyers Academy. But it's probably going to be more expensive on the pre-owned side as well. But there are certainly some advantages to them.
Right. Okay. Now, as far as I've never, ever, outside of as a kid, like fishing with one of my uncles, driven a boat. Okay. I'm a little bit unique in that one of the things that I've done, and I've been very blessed to do for the police department is I was a helicopter pilot for 7 years
Oh, wow. Okay.
with the police department. So I've been flying airplanes and helicopters since I've been flying airplanes since 1992, and I've been flying helicopters. I have about 7, 8 years of helicopter flying experience. So that's one of the things that why I'm so enamored with the Zeus and the pod drives and the IPS, because of the ease of maneuverability. Is that false bravado, or even for somebody who doesn't have that kind of aviation experience, like a brand new boater, is that something that should be looked into?
They make running a boat that size much easier for a new person coming in, no to limited boating experience. You can hop on it and you're like, oh, I get it. You move the controller this way and it moves that way. You spin it and it just spins in its radius. Now, with that
Right.
said, here's what I'm going to recommend no matter what you do is and this might even be something that you would want to do in the next month or so before it gets too cold up there. And that is, you can go to like boatsetter.com or Get My Boat, and you can rent a boat, and you can rent a boat with a captain. So what that allows you to do is find something that's a 38, 40 foot in the type of boat that you would like. Maybe you're going to drop a couple grand on it, but you're going to be able to go out on the water and you're going to say, hey,
Right.
Mr. Captain, I want you to show me how to run this boat. And you're going to be able to go, whether it's got joystick control or not, run it with just the sticks with the regular controls. If you have that aviation background, you understand some of the things like crabbing and the impact of the environment and the wind and current.
Right.
It impacts you the same way, so you'll understand some of those concepts that somebody without that experience won't know. And you'll also understand, and I assume that you're IFR rated, you'll
Yes.
understand the concept of small inputs of
Right.
finesse almost. Especially, I've never flown a helicopter, but I've got my VFR ticket. You'll understand some things that most people don't. But when you get out there with the real captain in the waters where you're going to be boating, you'll get a really good sense for it. And here's what I feel is that after a month on your boat, it's not going to matter if you have joystick control or you're just running it with the throttles and maybe a bow thruster on that size boat, and you're going to be just as competent over time. The learning curve's a little bit longer, but in the long run, it's not going to matter to you. If especially with the kind of experience that you have of you're not going to be intimidated, you're not going to be overly confident. You're going to understand that, hey, if the weather's crappy out, we're just not going today. And you'll have that experience of making those type of decisions.
Okay. All right. Now I know I don't want to misname it, but I know there's not an academy, but there's another program that you have where different people within the industry are interviewed, and one of the interviews is regarding offsetting the cost of your boat.
Yes.
Correct.
The U.S. Boat Expo, it is.
Thank you. The U.S. Boat Expo. Now, with that, my wife has a side business where she does wine consulting and wine tasting, and we generally will do that at home. And we know the tax ramifications or benefits of claiming a portion of the home to do that because it is a legitimate licensed business, so on and so forth. Is that something that translates over to this?
Absolutely. And again, I would go in that academy. I talked to Shay Unity, the VP at Boat Setter. And there, it's that same thing that I just mentioned. You can,
Okay.
it's like Airbnb for boats. You can put your boat up there and say, hey, you can rent this and you can take it out yourself. I would never do that with my boat. I wouldn't. It's too difficult for somebody that doesn't know anything about boating to jump on a boat and not ruin it or hurt somebody. I wouldn't be comfortable with
Right.
that. But they've got the captain option, and it doesn't necessarily have to be you, but you do have to have your 6-pack, your actual U.S. Coast Guard captain's license, which you could get yourself, just kind of like going through the getting your VFR. It's, you take a course, you take a class, you take the test, and boom, you got it. You do
Okay.
you do a monitor your time, and you do a physical, health physical, and then you're good to go. Or you can
Okay.
find a
Great.
captain in your area and say, hey, I'll put my boat up. This captain can go with the boat. And now, and this is something that boat setter is getting into, is do a wine tasting on a cruise of the Statue of Liberty. And now you've got that business and you've got your boat business, and it's legit. It's and a place like Boat Setter does the marketing to get the people, and they're really focusing on events like that, which could be kind of a cool combination.
Yeah. No. Especially, listen. The water's beautiful. I don't care if it's in a bathtub or in New York, but the waters around New York, having gone around the city and having lived in the city my whole life, that's one of the things that I've thought about in the back of my head. I just didn't know if it was something that would translate, where you take, my wife's legitimate wine business, and then take a cruise up the Hudson, where you go to the Statue of Liberty, pass underneath, go towards the East River underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, and all these iconic things within New York, which, they're just phenomenal.
Yeah. Matter of fact, my wife just booked a trip up there. My daughters are 10 and 7, and they are going to be going up there in December, kind of to get the Christmas
Okay.
feel. It'll be their first trip. My sister-in-law lives in Long Island City. And so they don't know about it. It's going to be a surprise, but it's something that for
Unless
me,
they listen to the podcast.
well, they think their dad's an idiot. I tell them all the time, I'm like, hey, I'm a YouTuber, I'm an influencer. They're like, Dad, you're a dummy. So
You're not up on your TikTok.
Yeah. I'm just an old guy that doesn't know anything in their minds.
That's great. That's funny.
But I think, for tourists, even for locals, for me, I'm like, I'm going to take the ferry. I'm going to take the Staten Island ferry that goes by the
Yeah, Staten Island Ferry. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that to me, that's an awesome time. But to do it on a 40-foot cruiser, and you've got somebody that knows wine, and you've got, you and your spouse, or maybe a group of 4 or 6 or 8 people, I think that's a business opportunity that could potentially be a lot of fun and offset your boating expense.
Okay. Yeah, that's food for thought.
Sure.
I like that. Okay, great.
As a matter of fact, go check out some articles on Boat Setter, because I saw the president. I can't remember what her name is off the top of my head, but that is one of the things they're focusing on, is those experiences, in addition to just the, hey, get a boat, take it out like a regular boat rental, but the experiences as well, whether it's a captain taking you fishing, the wine tour, or the dinner and wine tour. So check that out for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's definitely something I'm going to do.
So Ronald, anything else that's kind of been on your mind, or that you want to chat about, or any other experiences you want to share in your journey so far?
No, not really. I think that pretty much covers it. Again, the biggest thing that I've done that I think a lot of people fail to do is, although I almost took a hit on that cruisers, one of the things even before that is my wife and I sat down and we created a plan. We're like, we're going to start putting money away. Thank God we both work. We're both fortunate to have very good jobs, but we decided we're going to put money away. And we didn't do that sacrificing experiences or trips for our kids and vacations, but we started establishing, some type of a savings so that we can do this and, hopefully do it right and enjoy it. So that's something, doing your research and, not being afraid of spending $77 on a course just so you can learn a few tidbits, which have already been, proven useful because, the boat that we're looking at in Maryland, the diesel engine boat, it has 740 hours. It's 2012, and it is a little bit higher priced, but because we're not in a rush and I can afford to, I can wait for the colder weather to set in, and maybe that boat will stay on the market, maybe the price will drop a little bit, and then I can go nitpick the crap out of the upholstery.
Yep.
So not being afraid, not being in a rush to pull the trigger. It's not, the water's always going to be there, but by the same token, I've had, people tell me, well, wait until you retire. No, I don't want to wait until I retire because you don't know what, unfortunately, is going to happen tomorrow. But by the same token, it's a balancing act. You don't want to pull the trigger too soon, but you also don't want to put it off either.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, your daughter, your son's already away at college. Your daughter is going to be gone soon enough, and in your line of work, thank God for guys like you and women like you that are willing to take that risk. Is, hey, you got to enjoy life now, but you got to think about the future, and that balancing act I think is key. But life's meant to be enjoyed. I mean, you work your ass off. You deserve to have some fun if it works financially and you make smart decisions on what you get into if it is boating. So right. I appreciate you saying that the less than $100 investment has provided you value, and it's been well worth it. I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you.
So, well, hey, Ronald, this has been a great conversation. I'll make sure that the mother-in-law comments get edited out, protect you a little bit.
Thank you.
And feel free to reach out. Let me know if you've got other questions, and good luck with the shopping as you head down to Maryland.
Thank you very much, sir. You take care, and thank you for taking the time.
All right. You're welcome. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Let's pull up the anchor and run this podcast back to the dock. We'll be back again with another helpful and fun episode next time. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, visit boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/guest, and I'll help offer insights into your boat research and shopping experience. Also, we'd appreciate it if you took just 2 minutes to rate and review this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. It helps others find us so we can help more boaters.
By the way, if you want to ensure you find the perfect boat at the lowest possible price so you can buy with 100% confidence, visit boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/academy for a short video and all the details.
Now, before we go, I want to leave you with a few first-time boating tips for when you own your new boat. Number 1, know your local boating laws, basic navigation rules, and how to operate your boat safely. It'll make boating even more fun for everyone. 2, be aware of your wake at all times and pay attention to no wake zones because you are responsible for your wake. When maneuvering at slow speeds, you can put out an enormous wake. If going slow, be courteous, save some fuel, and drop down to idle speed, just in forward gear to ensure there is no wake. This could save you an expensive ticket and will keep you from being that guy on your waterway. Number 3, boats do not have headlights. They have docking lights, specifically made for seeing in tight quarters and docking. Do not turn your docking lights on while cruising down the water. It can blind other boaters and is very dangerous, and again, could save you an expensive ticket. Number 4, follow the maintenance schedule for your boat. Change the oil, impeller, gear loop, winterize if you need to winterize in your area. Inspect your trailer tires, bearings, and grease the hubs if you're a trailer boater to ensure you don't experience expensive and unnecessary repairs that will impact your boating time. Number 5, always double check your plug is in, your battery is charged, and the fuel is full before heading out for a day on the water. It could just save your boating day. And if you're a trailer boater, I've got a few extra tips. Number 1, at the boat ramp, prepare your boat, your gear, and your guests in the staging area. Then, when you're ready, back down the ramp, unload the boat, head to the parking lot, and right back down to your boat to be fast and courteous to your fellow boaters and don't tie up that ramp unnecessarily. Next, use transom tie-down straps when trailing your boat. Very bad things can happen if you don't, and they do happen. 3, check everything in the boat is secure before heading down the road. Seat cushions, gear, keys, towels, even tubes and lily pads can get blown out when pulling your boat down the highway or interstate. And most important, have fun. Enjoy your boat and get on the water as much as possible because life truly is better on a boat. Until next time, this is your friend in boating, Captain Matt.